podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Spanning the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is Subject Cinema's Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown.
Remember, you must support the war effort. Buy bonds immediately. That's one of the first things out of this guy.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
is the Subject Cinema Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown, day number 5. I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown. Do
It
they
is,
still
day
do
and
war
date.
bonds? Do they still do war bonds?
I don't know.
I don't even know.
I don't think so.
I didn't
Day
know
and
what they
date-
were when we watched the movies. So.
Day and date, this is April 9th, 2019. Happy birthday, Mom. Miss you. There's all kinds of great movies yet to come on this. And this one is the first one to flash back out of the current timeline.
Yes.
We go all the way back to World War II. And Chris Evans starring in Captain America, the First Avenger. This is, they went back to the original roots for this movie, not like revising it or anything
Right.
like they've done which they'll probably do as they go through the series after where we are now. But the Evans character, the origins and everything. The CGI in this movie is incredible.
Blows
what they
your
did
mind.
with Evans himself.
Yeah.
The real Evans you see after the transformation.
Yes.
He bulked up. I think he said 70 pounds for this role. And the version of Steve Rogers we get for the first 45 minutes of the movie is amazing what they did to him.
He's a living example of the before and after thing from the Charles Atlas ads.
Oh, yeah.
In the back of the comic.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's...
He starts off, he's Steve's very thin, he's very frail, he has all these health problems.
Yep.
And then one dose of super soldier serum later and hello, male nurse.
This has an all-star cast of both up-and-coming stars, like Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter, and Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, his best friend, and well-known faces like Tommy Lee Jones as the general in charge of the Super Soldier Project,
Yes.
and Stanley Tucci as the inventor of it.
And Dr. Erskine. And on the bad guys side of things,
Quite a few good
we
there,
have,
too.
We have quite a few people on the bad guys side that have other, they've been involved with other fantasy films.
Several on the
Including
good guys' side.
Yeah, including Richard Armitage, who plays a spy, King Thorin.
It's a bit
from
part.
The
He
Hobbit.
didn't become a big star
It's a
until
big part. It's a bit part, but it's an important
Yeah,
part.
but it didn't become. He didn't become recognizable until he played Thorin Oakenshield in the Hobbit movies.
That's true.
Now
And
people know who he is.
And also Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull.
Who is deliciously good in this.
Oh, he's so awesome.
And the sad thing is he was very unhappy with what.
Yeah,
they did.
I know.
And
I know. Which is
the makeup was very hard on him, and he didn't.
well, when
really
you
like
see
it.
the makeup
Yeah.
in this movie, you're like, oh my gosh.
Also,
wow.
character actor Toby Jones is here, and he will play a bigger part too over the years.
Yes.
And a number of other people that you'll recognize. They did a great job capturing a period and the music and the
Absolutely.
feel and even the costume. And it's strange that Captain America, the only other times that he's been brought to live action in the past, neither one really connected to the comic series. There was the serial from Republic in the early 1940s where they changed his identity. He was some crusading district.
They changed his name, they changed his job, and then we have the TV movies
The
from
Red
the
Brown
70s.
TV movies were set in the 70s. They were, likely placed, but he was playing Steve Rogers. That's a little more of an improvement. And he has the right body for it.
Right.
But the whole motorcycle helmet and goggles costume.
Yeah, and the less said about the movie, that they actually did it, the movie.
They did 2 TV movies, which were later spliced into a 4-week
Right, but we
miniseries.
forgot about that other movie.
Oh, yes, and the Matt Salinger thing.
Yeah.
That was, according to everybody said, never was released. I swear I saw it at Regal Cinema when I was living there. I didn't go to see it, but
I've seen it on cable. They have shown it on cable, and I was like, wow, this is
and
not
he lost
good.
tons of weight and had whole bunch of rashes because that suit was made of rubber.
Yeah, and it showed.
Yeah.
But talking about getting the suit right, getting the casting right, getting absolutely pretty much dang everything right.
Let's go back to Subject Cinema number 304, day and date July 24th, 2011, and our original review of Captain America, the First Avenger.
Rogers, Steven.
Just give me a chance.
Sorry, son.
I'm saving your life.
General Patton has said that wars are fought with weapons, but they are won by men.
You just don't know when to give up, do you? I could do this all day.
Our goal is to create the greatest army in history.
I should be going with you. Look, I know you don't think I can do this.
It's the last film in the ongoing saga before the entire group film hits next summer, and it is about, I think, the oldest of all the characters, if I'm not mistaken. Give us the 90-second rundown on Captain America, the First Avenger.
It is war. It is, the United States is being drawn into... We're not in the war yet, but we know about what's going on overseas, and the Nazi war machine is churning toward setting its sights on the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. One part of that is a shadowy group of people that are part of the Nazi war machine known as Hydra, a scientific branch of the Nazi regime, headed up by a mysterious figure named Johann Schmidt, who goes by another name, the Red Skull. He is searching for a device that will give him the power of the gods, which may or may not be a good thing because Johann Schmidt is buckets crazy.
Well, it would be a bad thing regardless because it would go to the Nazi technology.
It would be a bad thing going to it would be a bad thing if it was going to the Nazi technology, but we find out that certain people have aspirations to be crazier than the Nazis. That's a really bad thing. Coming into all of this mess is a young man named Steve Rogers, who is a young American who desperately wants to serve his country, but because of health issues has been rejected 4 times at different locations trying to enlist in the Army. He is the prototype of the 98-pound weakling from the Charles Atlas comics, this little skinny creature that if heart was a measure, he'd be 9 feet tall. Unfortunately, heart is not a measure. But he's
5'5" or so, and maybe 100 pounds. And
if that, soaking wet with his pockets full of rocks.
Yeah.
But his desire and his drive is noticed by Dr. Abraham Erskine, who convinces the Army to sign him up. And he winds up under the command of Colonel Chester Phillips, a very cynical soldier who doesn't think that this guy is going to amount to anything. But Dr. Erskine still believes in him, along with a brilliant engineer and all-around scientific whiz named Howard Stark. Dr. Erskine has created a formula which is basically being referred to as a super serum. It magnifies what is inside of you. It makes a good man better. Unfortunately, as we find out with Johann Schmidt, it makes a bad man worse. Because
he had an earlier version of the serum.
Yes.
When Dr.
Erskine was still in Germany. In Germany, yes. Steve is given the serum and goes through a grueling procedure, which winds up radically changing his body, but thankfully not changing the good human being that he is inside. And thus Steve Rogers becomes Captain America, which leads him on a collision course with the evil Red Skull.
But not before a USO tour in a ridiculous costume.
No. A cast including Chris Evans as Captain America, Steve Rogers, Haley Atwell as plucky British would you call her a whack?
She's an agent. She's a special agent.
Peggy Carter. Sebastian Stan as James Buchanan Barnes, a friend of Steve's, also known as Bucky. Tommy Lee Jones as Colonel Chester Phillips. Hugo Weaving as Johann Schmidt, the Red Skull. Dominic Cooper as Howard Stark. And Stanley Tucci as Dr. Abraham Erskine. Wow.
And just so you know, also big parts of it, Toby Jones as Dr. Armanzola, and Richard Armitage as Heinz Kruger. Mm-hmm. So now,
one word. Damn! This is what a superhero movie is supposed to be. I will actually disagree with you about the oldest part, because I would think Thor is older than Steve.
No. I meant when I said oldest, I meant oldest in comic age.
Oh, okay.
Captain America's been around since the 40s. The rest of them have not.
Oh, I see what you mean. This was exciting. It had a really tight story. You brought up that you thought there was a lot of parallels between this and the old Republic serials and those kind of things. And I definitely agree with you. I can totally see where you're coming from there. I thought the special effects were unbelievable. The work that was done to make Chris Evans, who is extraordinarily easy on the eyes, into this 98-pound shrimp was...
it's amazing because it's
terrifying.
Done all by CGI. Yeah. And it's really amazing what they did. It's
that was
scary.
Just crazy. And also the work done with Hugo Weaving, turning him into the Red Skull.
Which was partial makeup.
Which was partial makeup, partial CGI, and all around, holy crap. I loved it. I thought that it had a lot of heart. It was really what a superhero movie is supposed to be. You could tell the cast was having an awesome time. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was patriotic. It made you proud to be an American, something which a lot of people want to frown upon, to which I say to people like that, go jump in the effing lake. You know.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Well,
about yours.
Well, the movie opens with a modern-day scene where they are finding...
we jump back and forth in time.
Well, no, we don't jump back and forth in time. It's at the beginning and the end of the movie. Yeah. The rest of the movie is in the 1940s. The beginning of the movie starts off with a group who have found this big thing sticking out of an iceberg, basically, somewhere in the Great Lakes, I think.
Well, it was like the Arctic Circle or somewhere.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't that far north. He was still south of New York, wherever it happened. But in any case, it was an interesting, or actually it could have been coming over the pole, I suppose.
Yeah.
In any case, they have found this and are digging into it and find the symbol, the shield, and from there we go into the story that happened in 1942. Wow. This was the best superhero movie of the year. I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of this from beginning to end. Chris Evans is one of my favorite young actors, and this is much better than his arrogant take on Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four, which I know Johnny's supposed to be headstrong, but not that headstrong. And here...
God rest his soul.
Yeah. For a comic character, really. This movie is lovingly... You know what? It reminded me of the 1940s episodes of Wonder Woman in the staging and coloring aspects.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
made it look very much looked kind of like the old sepia tone type thing in places, and the battle sequences in this are a lot of fun.
We did not see it in 3D.
No, but surprisingly, the critics are recommending to be seen in 3D, even though it's a converted 3D. So we might eventually.
We might.
But for now, I love the chemistry between Chris Evans and Haley Atwell. They are absolutely fantastic. Tommy Lee Jones, the old crusty general in charge, of course, playing his stock Tommy Lee Jones role. He does it so well. That's why they keep asking him to do these kind of parts.
He has some of the best lines.
Yeah, he does. He
really
has some really good lines. I love Hugo Weaving anyway, but man, is he good as
Schmidt and as the Red Skull.
Well, it's the same person.
Yeah.
I mean, just one has the head and one doesn't.
This is apparently going to be the year for noseless villains between this and Harry Potter.
I just love him, and I loved him in this. The Dominic Cooper portrayal of Tony Stark's father, Howard Stark, is really something that's going to be interesting when they tie it into the Avengers next year. I think that overall, it was an absolute, to use an old 1940s expression, a whiz-bang of a movie. You're going to go to this film, and we saw it with an almost full audience. The audience loved it.
They did.
And it's an old-fashioned throwback. The last thing to come out like this was Indiana Jones films, where it felt like a serial where you had the action and the fun and the suspense and what would happen. I gotta say, Chris Evans looks like a dork in the Captain America USO costume. And I don't really like the changes that are made to the traditional Cap costume for the fighting, for when he goes out, actually does fight. But overall, it drags in a couple of places, but outside of that, this is easily, I like this just a teensy bit better than Thor, and I really thought this movie was light years above the most recent one, which was Green Lantern. I think Cap has a huge future on the screen, and don't leave. There is a post-credit sequence, as always.
There really is.
What's your score?
My grade is an A. I give it a very solid, fun A.
I give it an A-, just a couple of little quibbles. And I gotta be honest, the last line of the movie, if you're a romantic, is gonna kill you. I loved this film. Captain America, the First Avenger, I think you would be safe to say it's definitely an all-American film worth seeing. Everybody will sing the Stars and Stripes forever after seeing this film. Mm-hmm. Chris has been on our radar for a number of years. Yes. We first spotted him in the independent film Fierce People, where he had co-starred opposite Anton Yelchin and Kristen Stewart. And it was a great movie. If you've never seen it, you should. It is truly one of the late Anton Yelchin's best performances. And we were kind of interested in him. And then you got interested more in him because he did The Losers with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who you were a huge fan of.
Yes.
And
great movie.
When it was and we'd seen him in one of the second Fantastic Four movies.
He'd already played Johnny Storm in the two Fantastic Four films. And
which
he'd also been in one of the spoof films, Not Another Teen Movie.
Had he?
Okay. Yeah, he'd done that.
And he had already done Scott Pilgrim at that point, too, hasn't he? Had he not?
I don't know. Yeah,
because that came out in 2010, so yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he did. I think he'd already done that at that time.
I suppose.
I might be wrong about the year, but I think he had. I'm
still picturing Brandon Routh with blonde hair from that movie, and I think I'm scarred for life.
Yeah, that was interesting. The movie was not. This
movie, however, is
the spirit
awesome.
Of Captain America, like nobody else has.
So awesome.
And he really, throughout the entire universe, up to the point we're at now, post Infinity War, continues to carry the embodiment of what Steve Rogers meant to all the comic fans for many, many years. Yeah. This is Chris's version of Captain America is the one we saw in that dynamic. Was it Alex Ross that painted the post 9/11 shot of Cap with his head bowed in front of the World Trade Center?
Yeah, there's a shot of the Twin Towers and Cap with his head kind of down, his hand is kind of covering it. You can tell he's crying.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful and it's so powerful.
This is that version of Captain America.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
See, that's the thing about Steve as a person. I mean, you can be all like, oh, Steve Rogers is so handsome and Steve Rogers is so muscular and Steve Rogers is...
I knew she'd slip into it sooner or later.
Sorry, I went off to my happy place for a minute. I'm back. But...
It's Lent.
But the thing... Sometimes being Catholic and being a superhero fan really stinks. But anyway, the thing about Steve, he's a good person.
Yes, he is.
At his heart, Steve Rogers is a good man. And that's the thing that Professor Erskine said to him, is that that's what this serum does. It makes a good person better.
Right.
He was already a good man.
Right.
The serum and all that.
Bit of a twit, the way he wanted to do things, always jumping in before thinking and getting the crap kicked out of him.
That's the thing though. He had this enormous heart.
Yeah.
But it's difficult when you have the heart of a lion, but you have the body of a kitten.
Yeah.
So the problem is, that was the problem. Now when you've got the heart of a lion and the stamina and the strength to match, that's the thing. The serum just made his body able to deal with the fact that the person inside of his body was always ready to be the person to fight and stand up and fight the good fight, but his body just couldn't do it for him, and now it can.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I find so interesting, is that, as he said, it makes a good man better and it would make a bad man worse.
Right.
And we don't see that portrayed any more clearly than we do with the Red Skull.
Right, yeah.
Because, I mean, you've got a long way to go when you make Hitler look, if not good, at least less evil than you, and he manages to do that.
Coming up in the next installment of our show, it's time to bring the heroes together for the first time.
Yep.
As they battle an enemy they don't expect, courtesy of Thor's little brother.
Yes. And everybody gets along, and it's peace and love.
Brother, whatever he is.
And everybody gets along, and it's peace and love and kumbaya and hand-holding from the beginning.
You are so full of it.
Yeah.
We also get the introduction of 2 more Avengers and the reintroduction of a third with a new persona.
Yes.
And that's all coming up on Marvel's The Avengers tomorrow on Subject Cinema's Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
We will see you then.
Bye now.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.